On July 6, 1887, an armed militia led by American businessmen broke into the Kingdom of Hawaii's government and forced the signing of a new constitution, called the Bayonet Constitution. Since the United States was the main importer of Hawaiian sugar, these planters wanted more control over what policies controlled trade. The new constitution gave many of these foreigners positions in government and stripped native Hawaiians of some of their rights. Although Hawaii still maintained nominal autonomy, this event showed that the island was in imminent danger. Then, in 1891, King Kalakaua died. His sister, Liliuokalani, succeeded him. Queen Liliuokalani repealed the Bayonet Constitution and restored Hawaiian rights. The sugar barons feared that this imperiled free trade with the United States. The U.S. bought the most Hawaiian sugar, meaning that if tariffs were reintroduced, sugar barons would see considerable loss. To protect their wealth, barons planned a coup. With the help of the U.S. minister to Hawaii, the so-called Committee of Safety acquired military power without any knowledge or permission from real U.S. authority. Leading a contingent of Marines from the warship USS Boston, the committee overthrew Queen Liliuokalani in a bloodless coup on January 17, 1893. The U.S. flag was raised, and the committee declared itself the provisional government. This event marked a change in direction for U.S. imperialism. While a similar plantation takeover happened earlier in Texas, and U.S. business interests constantly affected nearby countries, most expansion had been directed towards North America. Invasion had also been mostly straightforward and intentional. After all, many people still believed that the U.S. should stay out of foreign entanglements. These changes marked the start of dollar diplomacy and increased U.S. aggression in the Caribbean, despite the continuity of the Manifest Destiny and corporate power. However, since this takeover was not official, the story is not over. Without permission from the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Minister of Hawaii recognized the new government and proclaimed Hawaii a U.S. protectorate. President Benjamin Harrison signed a treaty of annexation with the new government. Before the Senate could ratify it, however, Grover Cleveland replaced Harrison as president and subsequently withdrew the treaty. The committee, led by Sanford Dole, sent a delegation to Washington in 1894 seeking annexation. Annexation would mean guaranteed removal of all tariffs and would seal the fate of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Instead, President Cleveland appointed Special Investigator James Blount to look into the events in the Hawaiian Islands. The Blount Commission found that Liliuokalani had been overthrown illegally and ordered that the American flag be lowered from Hawaiian government buildings. The Blount Report's transcript looks like this. It goes into details about the Hawaiian government and its affairs before and after its invasion. The concepts of social Darwinism and the white man's burden are everywhere, but the conclusion drawn is that the white men have abandoned Christianity and instituted an evil system of greed. The report makes many references to racial superiority, but overall condemns the greedy and refutes racial validation with different racism. However, Queen Liliuokalani never regained power. Sanford Dole decided to make himself president of Hawaii, refused to turn over power, and hypocritically declared that the United States had no right to interfere with the internal affairs of Hawaii. His provisional government then proclaimed Hawaii a republic, and in a legendary burst of creativity named it the Republic of Hawaii. Hawaiians were not on board with this. Although Dole painted the situation as a revolution against oppression, the people were against his regime. Resistance manifested in conflicts like the Wilcox Rebellion, but never succeeded. In 1897, President McKinley was inaugurated and immediately received a proposal for annexation from Sanford Dole. McKinley was all for it, but Congress needed to approve. Queen Liliuokalani rallied her people and sent a letter clearly marked petition against annexation, with roughly 21,000 signatures. The letter looked like this. It essentially said that Hawaii actually belonged to her, and that she would really appreciate it if the government removed Sanford Dole. The Queen's diplomacy worked. However, this victory was short-lived. The Spanish-American War, fought in 1898, involved action in the Philippines, making Hawaii a valuable fueling station. Annexation was brought up again, and passed via a joint resolution. There was nothing the Queen and her people could do. The salt in the wound was that Sanford Dole became the first governor of the territory of Hawaii. At this point, the Rich Committee was satisfied. As a territory, citizens had fewer rights. Corporate regulation and taxation was minimum. The people of Hawaii realized that self-determination was out of reach and started pushing for statehood. However, it wasn't until 1959 that Hawaii became a state. Many Hawaiians never got to see this happy ending, if you could even call it that. Descendants of the Kingdom of Hawaii's citizens make only 10% of modern Hawaii's population and have a higher poverty rate than the majority. Descendants of the sugar barons either fled the industry or fell with it. The last sugar mill closed in 2016, marking the end of all large-scale sugar production in Hawaii. So is this the ending? Sanford Dole and all his white supremacist friends won, while Liliuokalani and all her people lost. Hawaiians are still affected negatively by Dole's legacy. The fall of the sugar industry was a hollow victory at best, because sugar had already been on the decline, and the official removal of sugar growth has only served to leave a few hundred people unemployed. On top of that, Hawaii is going through a crystal methamphetamine crisis, an urban crowding crisis, and an education crisis. Hawaii also has some of the most strict COVID rules in the world, making it hard to rectify any of these problems. The lifeline of tourist-based income that remains after COVID is more like a life string. Real Polynesian culture has to compete with a fake, sometimes racist version of stereotypical island culture. Hawaii's people and prosperity have been stamped out and put into a place where recovery is far away. No amount of punishment or retribution or apologies have helped, nor will they ever help. So this is an ending. But it doesn't have to be the ending.